Discover how one delivery girl amazingly exposed 9 programmers, transforming their lives forever. The sun hung low over Maplewood, its golden rays spilling across the quaint streets like liquid warmth. Sarah, a spirited 20-something delivery girl, navigated her little scooter through tight lanes, bags of steaming diner meals strapped to the back. For years, the town had been her life. Every house a story, every neighbor a friend. Yet, under the surface of this idyllic community lurked rumors about the local nerd squad. Sarah had heard them, the 9 tech-savvy programmers sighing through thick walls, battling a relentless stigma. She never had time to dig deep until something changed. That day, tucked behind the diner, Sarah overheard hushed tones. "I heard they're getting a big shot investor," one programmer said, his voice trembling. "And still, everyone thinks we're just weird." Those words struck Sarah like a thunderbolt. It rattled her beliefs about community. She'd always thought of Maplewood as tightly knit, a place of shared joys and dreams. But those men were struggling, weighed down by more than just their computers. Armed with determination, Sarah learned more about their hidden battles, failures at the fingertips of extraordinary talent. Loneliness wrapped like a cloak around their shoulders. As the days unfolded, she saw them in a new light. Each programmer grappling with shadows of disappointment and family expectations. They were pursuing their corrupted dreams, faces illuminated by harsh screens, unaware of the impact they could create if only they had support. But that support was crumbling. Just as a beloved local diner faced closure, the heartbeat of Maplewood fading into oblivion. Fueled by passion, Sarah decided it was time to shake things up. "Look," she announced to her fellow townsfolk one busy afternoon as she served coffee. "We need to save our diner, and these programmers can help us." A collective murmur rippled through the room, followed by hesitation. "Technology and tradition can unite," she urged, her voice rising above the doubt. "Let us organize a fundraiser. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As plans took shape, her mother's disapproval clouded the air like an uncomfortable chill. "Sarah," she said, frustration lining her brow, "why are you helping them? We have our own problems." The words stung, but Sarah was more resolute than ever. Because community mattered. The sparks of unity needed to light the way and push her tired heart into action. But tensions escalated. Sarah's passion couldn't drown out the discontent brewing at home. At each turn, she faced barriers, battling fear and misunderstanding not just from her family, but from the wise old folks spending their days under the oak trees. Would they realize that joining forces was the only way to fight for their cherished diner? As the evening of the fundraiser approached, anticipation danced in the air, but so did apprehension. The stakes felt higher by the hour. Would the people of Maplewood, so long divided by stereotypes, rise up to protect one of their own? The programmers and townsfolk stood on the brink of transformation, learning that collaboration and compassion could redefine their community for the better. That night, as Sarah gazed at the flyer, optimism fluttered in her chest. But anxiety loomed large as she thought of what tragedies lay ahead. What would become of the diner if they faltered? Could courage replace their despair, drawing a clearer path through the shadows? A crowd gathered, thick with uncertainty, just as Sarah prepared to unveil the very moment that would change everything. The soft hum of chatter filled the diner as the sun dipped beneath the horizon, painting everything in hues of orange and pink. The air was thick with the smell of fries and burgers, mixed with the nervous energy of anticipation. Sarah stood behind the makeshift stage in the corner, her heart racing as she glanced around at the gathering crowd. Residents of Maplewood shuffled in, some exchanging wary looks while others whispered about the nerd squad. As the clock struck 6, Sarah took a deep breath. This moment was bigger than her. It was big for the diner, the town, and especially for those 9 programmers, too. She stepped forward, the spotlight flickering on her like a spotlight at a concert. The room quieted. "Thank you all for coming," she called out, her voice vibrant. slicing through the anxiety that rippled in the air. Tonight, we're not just here to save a diner. We're here to rediscover what community truly means. Murmurs wafted through the crowd, a mix of variety, some intrigued, others skeptical. Just behind her, the programmers cringed, hardly the type to stand in the limelight. Their usual banter had turned to shaky breathing. She could feel their fear exposed and vulnerable under the gaze of neighbors who had written them off. "Let us meet the minds behind the machines." Sarah rallied, motioning for the programmers to step forward. They stood awkwardly, appearing like young saplings against the weight of criticism from the towering trees around them. "Hey, started Greg, the shyest of the bunch, rubbing his hands nervously. "We're just guys who love creating things." Sarah felt the crowd shift, some expressions softening as the programmers shared snippets of their lives, their hopes drowned beneath a sea of misguided expectations. Slowly, they began to open up about their dreams, about how they longed to contribute to Maplewood beyond their screens. "Look, we can create a website for the diner, help promote it online," said Jenna, her confidence blossoming as the nervousness ebbed away. "Get people back to eating here." Applause broke out, resonating like a heartbeat, and Sarah could see flickers of curiosity ignite among the townsfolk. It was the turning point, the moment they began to see each other as allies rather than adversaries. As the night wore on, the energy shifted dramatically. Laughter bubbled up as programmers and locals scrambled to put together plans for the fundraiser, each voice intermixing in excitement. Yet Sarah noticed her mom at the back, arms crossed tightly, unhappiness etched into her features. "Why won't you just listen? They could really help." Sarah couldn't help but plead her case as she made her way to her mother during a lull in the excitement. Her mother shook her head, eyes misty with disappointment. "I just don't want you to get hurt, Sarah. But they're just like us. Don't you see?" Their argument hung heavy in the air like a storm on the horizon. In that moment, Sarah felt the weight of the world, the diner, the town's hope for reconciliation, and her strained relationship with her mother all crashing together. She wished she could make her mother understand that every link mattered. And then, a glimmer of light, a little girl tugging on Sarah's apron. "Can I help? I want to help save the diner." Her voice was fragile, but full of courageousness that cut through the tension. As the evening continued, Sarah realized that this wasn't just about the diner. It was about rewriting the narrative for everyone in Maplewood. They were all in this together. But as the last of the crowd began to dissipate, the simmering resentment from outside remained palpable. Could they truly change minds while facing centuries of judgment? What if the nights of labor wouldn't bear fruit after all? The weight of that unknown stretched on Sarah's shoulders as she looked back at the gathering. Could they really turn the tide together? With the stakes rising, she felt a jolt of clarity. The next step would have to be daring and bold. As she stood on the cusp of a movement, she knew one thing for sure: the battle was far from over. What shocking revelations lay ahead as they dove deeper into uniting the town against everything that divided them? Sarah stepped off the stage, heart still pounding from the adrenaline of the evening. The air was buzzing with excitement, yet unresolved tension lingered in the corner of her mind, stubborn and unyielding. She looked around the diner, now a swirling mix of hopeful chatter and laughter that felt both invigorating and strange. How had she found herself at the center of this? Greg, Jenna, and the others were discussing their plans with some older patrons, brainstorming ideas for the diner's website. It was clear the townsfolk were starting to warm up to them, gradually letting down their guarded walls. Each laugh felt like a victory. Every shared story made a connection. Yet, that small voice of doubt nagged at the edges of Sarah's mind. Would they really follow through? As she gazed into the faces of the townsfolk, she couldn't shake the feeling that while things appeared to be changing, deep-seated fears still loomed beneath. Her mom's disapproving face flickered in her memory, a reminder that some hearts remained closed. In a corner booth, she spotted the little girl who had asked to help, her bright eyes shining with determination. Sarah felt a swell of admiration for the innocence in her excitement. It made her think, what could one small act do in the face of all this uncertainty? "Sarah, come check this out," Jenna called out, gesturing enthusiastically. Sarah obliged, weaving through clusters of inspired patrons and bumping into laughter-filled conversations. When she reached Jenna's side, the The table was overflowing with sketches and notes from the budding programmers. What are we thinking for the diner's site? Jenna asked, a grin plastered on her face. It needs to feel like home, Greg added. And let everyone know how special this place is. Exactly, Sarah chimed in. We want stories to shine. This diner isn't just about food. It's about friends, memories, the community. We can feature regulars, share their stories. Everyone has something to say. As they brainstormed, an idea struck that felt electric. What if we invite everyone in Maplewood to contribute? They can send us their favorite diner memories, things that matter to them. It's a chance for the town to connect. Jenna's eyes sparkled with excitement. That's brilliant. People love sharing their stories, especially when it involves good food. The idea solidified in the dim diner light like the first glimpse of dawn after a long night. Encouragement whirled around them as Sarah and the programmers rallied together, building a plan that felt more than just another project. It was a lifeline, but when she glanced over her shoulder, her heart sank. Her mother was gone. Sarah scanned the diner, and dread gripped her as she spotted her mother standing at the front, arms crossed tightly. The disappointment in her gaze clashed with Sarah's bubbling excitement. What is happening here? Mom, you have to see what we're doing. It's not just the diner. It's about the whole town coming together. I just don't want you to be hurt by those people, her mother said, the weight of the unspoken years pressing down heavily. But you don't even know them. They're really trying. At that moment, behind her mother, Sarah noticed a group of locals, a mix of kids and adults. They had gathered, ears perked like those of curious animals, eager to see what transpired next between mother and daughter. The stakes felt higher than ever before. Maybe I should just save my breath, her mother murmured, taking a step back. But Sarah could see she hesitated. Don't you care enough to listen? Sarah's voice echoed in the tense silence. The diner had been filled with laughter, plans, and hope. But could love truly bridge the gap? Facing her mother made Sarah realize this wasn't just about the diner. It was about understanding, healing, and acceptance. As the weight of the moment pressed around them, Sarah felt a resolve harden within. What if this was more than just about connections with the townsfolk? What if her biggest challenge was mending the bond with her own mother? With the future balancing on a thin thread, Sarah took a deep breath. Mom, can we find a way to face this together? Her heart raced. Would her mother take that difficult step, or would understanding remain just out of reach? The night was alive with possibility, but uncertainty loomed large. The true battle was still to come. Sarah held her breath, the words hanging in the air like a delicate glass ornament. Her mother's stern expression seemed to crack ever so slightly, revealing a tiny glimmer of uncertainty beneath her facade. It was such a slight shift, yet it gave Sarah hope. Around them, the diner buzzed, patrons watching with bated breath. She caught the eyes of the little girl again, those bright orbs wide with anticipation, as if sensing the importance of the moment. This was not just a personal battle. It felt like a crossroads for the entire community. Together? What does that even mean? Her mother's voice cracked, revealing the emotion she struggled to suppress. It means being open, Mom. It's about giving this town and us a chance. Sarah felt the fierce warmth of her conviction. I know what you've been through. I've felt that pain too, but it doesn't have to define us. We can build something beautiful here. The words seemed to resonate beyond just the two of them. Greg and Jenna paused their animated discussion, glancing over with wide eyes. The other patrons, once occupied in their conversations, now leaned in a bit closer, sensing the emotional pivot occurring. Are you really ready to talk with them? Her mother's voice softened, but skepticism still lingered in her breath. I am, but I need you to meet me halfway. There was urgency in Sarah's voice, a pleading, a promise. You'll see. The people here, they care. They just need to be seen. Just like us. Her mother stood still, the tension that had encased the diner now palpable, almost suffocating. But something in Sarah's face, a fierce determination mixed with vulnerability, slowly thawed her mother's resolve. All right, I'll listen, she finally said, but the challenge was evident. This was not just an easy concession. It was a truce laden with unspoken history. Sarah felt a wave of relief wash over her. She wanted her mother to see the vibrancy of what was happening around them, to see how people were transforming together, as if every laugh and every shared memory was a brushstroke on a large canvas being painted anew. Let us do this, Sarah said, her voice breaking slightly from emotion. Let us take the first step. The little girl from the booth stepped forward, holding a crumpled piece of paper in her tiny hand. Can I tell my story? She asked, eyes shining with hope. Of course. Sarah knelt down to meet her gaze. Your story is important. With all eyes on her, the girl cleared her throat, and the diner held its breath. I always get pancakes here with my dad. He says pancakes make everything better. There was a ripple of warmth in the room, as laughter washed over the serious moment like a soft rain. Sarah's heart brimmed with hope. If stories like this could weave together, then maybe, just maybe, barriers could be broken. As the little girl spoke, recounting her fond memories, Sarah glanced at her mother. She saw the corners of her mouth lift ever so slightly, the tension easing from her shoulders. Sarah felt electrified. An unspoken understanding began to blossom between them. But as the moment unfolded, something flickered at the edge of Sarah's mind, a nagging unease that wouldn't quite let go. Could this small moment be the breakthrough she'd hoped for? Or were they merely exchanging one layer of tension for another, yet undiscovered? That question tangled in Sarah's thoughts, but she pushed it away. Tonight was about connection, about beginnings. When the little girl finished, applause filled the air, but Sarah remained focused on her mother. This is just the start, Mom. Can't you feel it? We'll just have to wait and see, her mother replied, a hint of belief creeping into her voice. Mom, what if you could find a story of your own here? Sarah asked, her eyes searching for any flicker of hope. For a moment, everything felt poised in suspension, filled with promise, yet anchored by doubt. Would her mother find the courage to join them in this journey, or would old fears pull her back? As the laughter and stories flowed around them, Sarah could sense that the next chapter of their lives was waiting just behind this one. She felt it, right on the verge of unfolding. The chatter in the diner gradually picked up again, but Sarah's mind was racing with possibilities. She could feel the energy shift, the promise of connection igniting something within her mother. People moved around them, laughter mingling with clattering dishes, while a sense of camaraderie filled the air. Sarah stood tall, fueled by the idea that they were on the brink of unearthing something amazing. Hey, do you want to hear my story too? Greg suddenly piped up. He had always been exuberant, but tonight he seemed especially eager to share. Absolutely. Sarah turned to him with genuine excitement. Encouraged by the little girl's bravery, Greg began recounting moments from his childhood, tales of Saturday afternoons spent racing bicycles and chasing fireflies. The more he spoke, the more laughter erupted around the tables, laughter that felt like a balm on old wounds, stitching the community closer together. Her mother watched, a softening gaze as animated conversations erupted in parts of the diner. It was infectious. Jenna joined in, sharing a sweet memory about her grandmother's cooking, and soon, the diner turned into a tapestry of voices weaving together stories of past heartaches and beautiful moments. As these exchanges blossomed, Sarah felt a swell of gratitude crash over her. Look, Mom, it's happening. People are finding their voices, she whispered, moving closer to her mother. I see that her mother's reply was barely audible, both hesitation and awe swirling in her eyes as she absorbed the lightness in the room. It's beautiful, but what if? But what if? Sarah jumped in, an edge of urgency creeping into her tone. What if we always stay quiet? We'll never know how to heal if we don't try. Just then, as if on cue, a shadow fell over them. A familiar figure stood in front of their booth. It was Mr. Harris, time-worn and wise, and a pillar of their small town. What is all this commotion? Sounds like there's a spark in the air, he said, his voice full of warmth. Sarah gestured broadly. Stories. Everyone is sharing theirs. Isn't it amazing? Mr. Harris smiled, revealing deep lines etched with history. Well, stories are what make this town breath, but sometimes it takes a nudge to show us the way. He looked directly at her mother. You got a story in there, Margaret. I know it. The diner quieted, all eyes turning toward her mother. Sarah felt her heart race as she held her breath, waiting for a response. Would she step into the light and embrace this moment, or would her doubts extinguish the flame once more? Her mother shifted in her seat, the weight of Mr. Harris's words hanging in the air. Finally, she opened her mouth, but no words came. Instead, her eyes welled with tears. The flicker of vulnerability Sarah had seen earlier reappeared, and it took every ounce of strength not to reach out and comfort her. I don't know if I can, her mother finally admitted, her voice trembling. But Sarah felt the surge of determination rising within her once more. You can, Mom. We all need you to. We need you to tell us what's in your heart. For a moment, the diner seemed to hold its breath alongside Sarah, caught between history and possibility. And just when it seemed like the tide was finally shifting, a loud crash broke through the door. A raucous group of newcomers spilled inside, laughing and shouting, disrupting the intimate moment. Hearts in their throats, the crowd turned to look, uncertainty creeping back in. Would this newcomer energy shatter the delicate atmosphere they had built? Or would it pull them into yet another unexpected chapter of connection and growth? As curiosity mixed with apprehension, Sarah could feel change poised at the edge, waiting for the right moment to tip the scales forever. The raucous laughter of the newcomers echoed through the diner, their boisterous energy spilling over like a shaken soda can. Sarah's heart raced as her gaze darted between her mother and the sudden burst of life at the entrance. Instinctively, she sensed that the moment they had been building toward might slip away like sand through their fingers. Look at them, Jenna whispered, eyes wide with intrigue. They've got so much energy. Yeah, but that was our moment, Sarah replied, a tinge of disappointment creeping into her voice. She turned back to her mother, still glued to her seat, tears glistening but unspent. Mom, don't let them steal this from you. Mr. Harris leaned in closer. Moments like this are precious, Margaret. The flame might flicker, but it can be reignited. The newcomers filled the room with energy, their loud chatter weaving through the laughter as they ordered their meals. One of them, a tall guy with curly hair, caught Sarah's eye. He waved a hand toward the booth, clearly wanting to be part of the warmth already building in the diner. Hey, what's going on over here? He called out, leaning closer to hear. His curiosity seemed genuine, bridging the gap between the two groups. Suddenly, Sarah felt a shift. The boisterous laughter subsided as the newcomers focused on Mr. Harris, who shared a story of his own, a humorous tale about his first Thanksgiving turkey, which ended up being a smoky disaster. The laughter erupted again, this time bringing the two groups together. See, Sarah nudged her mother. It's still happening. Just look. Her mother wiped a stray tear away, her eyes still filled with uncertainty. Sarah could feel the tension radiating off her, but there was something else flickering there too, hope. Perhaps, buried deep inside, all those years of silence were ready to emerge into the light. Mom, Sarah said gently, almost pleading, think about all the stories waiting to be heard. What if yours is the one that helps someone else? This is your moment. You could lift us all. Finally, her mother's brow furrowed, and she glanced toward Mr. Harris, who gave her an encouraging nod. A soft sigh escaped her lips, and the corners of her mouth twitched as if a smile tried to break through. I had a story. Her voice shook, but carried an unmistakable undertone of resolve. But I just didn't think it mattered. I didn't think anyone would want to hear it. Suddenly, a chorus of voices chimed in, urging her on. Let us hear it. The curly-haired guy from earlier shouted. Yeah, come on, said Jenna, her eyes sparkling. Sarah's heart soared. It was happening. Before Margaret could change her mind, she stood up, brushing the remnants of doubt away. Okay. She hesitated, her chest rising and falling heavily. Yet there was a brightness igniting in her eyes, fueled by the warmth surrounding her. As she began, her voice wavered, but then, like a river breaking free from a dam, it flowed. Stories from her past, from her childhood to motherhood, began spilling forth like a sunbeam piercing through clouds. Sentences hung in the air, wrapping around her audience, drawing them in. Sarah couldn't believe it. This wasn't just any story. It was a window into her mother's heart, her struggles, and her dreams. As the words came, something shifted in the diner's atmosphere. The bond of connection that Sarah longed for, that vibrant mix of shared experience, was materializing right before her. The newcomers, once loud and boisterous, now listened intently, silence giving way to shared empathy as they poured their attention into Margaret's stories. But just as her mother found her rhythm, the door swung open yet again, and a familiar figure stepped inside, one from the past that stirred up old, unhealed wounds. Eyes widened, Sarah's pulse quickened. Who was it? And how would they affect the fragile new reality that had just begun to form? Would this reunion shatter the moment of connection, or would it deepen it in ways nobody could foresee? The figure paused at the entrance, silhouetted against the bright neon lights of the diner. The air suddenly felt heavier, a storm cloud looming over a moment that had just begun to flourish. Sarah's heart raced, pounding so hard she was sure everyone could hear it. "Zach," she breathed. The name felt foreign yet familiar, like a forgotten song that crept back into mind. He had been a ghost from their past, a shadow that lingered around memories she barely understood but felt in her bones. How could he show up here now at this moment? Margaret, her mother, faltered mid-sentence, the rhythm of her storytelling disrupted by the sight of Zach. Her eyes widened, and the glimmer of hope dimmed just a touch. The stories that had begun to weave a connection seemed to unravel at the edges. "Mom, keep going," Sarah urged, sensing her mother's hesitation. But Margaret was frozen, her gaze locked on the figure approaching their booth. "Don't let this ruin anything," Sarah whispered, willing the heat of her mother's unsung stories to fill the space again. Zach's confident stride brought him closer, a casual grin on his face, as if he hadn't caused heartache years ago. "I didn't expect to see you all here," he said, his voice light, but an undercurrent of nervous energy buzzed beneath. Margaret fidgeted with her napkin, no longer the storyteller but a woman confronted by her past. "What are you doing here, Zach?" she asked, each syllable weighed down with caution. "I just moved back to town," he replied, not bothering to mask the joviality in his voice. "Thought I'd stop by for some comfort food. I didn't realize it'd be a family reunion." He flashed an easy smile, but there was a dissonance as old wounds were pried open. Sarah felt the heat of irritation rising. "Is that what you call it?" She recognized her voice, stronger now, filled with the frustration of years lost to silence. Jenna shifted nervously, sharing a glance with Mr. Harris, who leaned closer, as if seeking to understand the sudden tension crackling through the air. Isaac stammered, thrown off by Sarah's burst of emotion. He turned his eyes toward her mother, searching her face for acknowledgement. "I just wanted to apologize for everything that happened." "Well, isn't it a little late for that?" Margaret's voice was steady yet brittle, like glass at the edge of breaking. "You can't just waltz back in when it suits you, Zach." A heavy silence enveloped the diner, every ear turned toward this unexpected confrontation. Something raw and aching brewed in Sarah's chest. Was this reunion a chance for healing, or would it drag them back through the darkness they had managed to escape? "I don't want to interrupt," Zach said, extending his hand toward Margaret cautiously, "but it's good to see you." "Is it?" She shot back, her lips pressed together tightly. "Or are you just here to witness what you've missed? The memories you left behind?" The weight of that question lingered in the air, as if the entire diner were holding its breath, riding the tide of tension that crackled between the trio. Sarah felt the exposed wires of family turmoil and old heartbreak mingle with the warmth her mother had just begun to build. "Mom, you don't have to talk to him if you don't want to," Sarah whispered, her heart aching for her mother to retreat back into her stories, back into the light she had just started to embrace. And yet, could this be the moment they finally confronted their past? Maybe it's time," her mother replied quietly, as if uncertain but spurred on by the surge of newfound strength from the audience around her. The room held its collective breath. The dawning realization hit Sarah. Could this confrontation with the past truly lead to healing? Or would it become another story left untold? Zach's eyes danced between them, his expression shifting from unease to anticipation. The story wasn't over yet, and Sarah felt the pulse of the diner, electric with possibility. What would her mother choose to rebuild or to break? The moment of truth was approaching, and Sarah feared it could shatter everything they had just begun to establish or forge a new path forward. Margaret took a deep breath, her chest rising and falling in a heavy rhythm. She seemed to steel herself against the rising tide of emotions that threatened to spill over. "Zach, you disappeared. And when you left, you took pieces of our lives with you." Each word was deliberate, crafted from years of regret and lost time. Zach ran a hand through his tousled hair, the casual gesture suddenly feeling very weary. "I know. I messed up. But I'm here now. I want to make things right, starting with you both." His gaze swept over Sarah, a hint of vulnerability breaking through his otherwise confident demeanor. Sarah felt a vicious coil of anger and confusion twist in her stomach. Make things right. You think that is possible? She couldn't help but let her frustration spill out. You left without a word. You hurt us, Mom. And you expect us to just move on? The diner was now entirely still. Plates clinked in the background. Laughter was swallowed by the thick tension. Every eye was now on them, witnessing a rekindled grief unfold in real time. Sarah, Isaac began, but she cut him off, the words spilling out like boiling water. Do you have any idea what it's like to carry that kind of weight? You think we just brushed it off? That it didn't hurt when you left? Mom had to rebuild everything. And now you're back, acting like nothing happened? She didn't care if she raised her voice. The silence of that place became suffocating in the wake of truth. Margaret interjected, the strength in her voice quavering slightly. I appreciate the apology, Zach, I really do. But words mean little without action. What do you even want from us? Zach's expression shifted, the grin fading. I want to understand what happened. I want to be a part of your lives again. I didn't realize how much I needed you until it was too late. His voice cracked with sincerity, rendering the space between them thick with unsaid sentiments. Sarah glanced at her mother, who had lowered her gaze, lost in thought. The look on Margaret's face was a picture of conflicted emotions, hurt, nostalgia, yet the faintest flicker of hope. Was she considering his words? Mom, please, Sarah pleaded, her own vulnerability breaking through the barriers she had erected. You don't have to decide anything now. It's okay to take your time. Margaret's hands trembled on the table, and Sarah reached out, covering them with her own. You've rebuilt so much already. Just don't let him take that away from you again. The room felt infinite, time stretched and warped, unwilling to let them escape the gravity of this moment. Zach's eyes shimmered with memories and longing, but also with uncertainty. I didn't come back to hurt you again. I promise. I just want a second chance. The words hung in the air, a fragile thread pulling them all closer, yet holding them in a place of unresolved tension. A moment stretched into eternity, hope and doubt colliding. What if Margaret's voice broke through the quiet, tentatively probing, what if we meet again? Turn this into something new? A conversation, just the three of us where we can figure this out together? Sarah's heart flipped at the potential of it all. Could that be what they needed? A chance to not only confront the past, but to build something from it. But the fear lurked in her chest, a deep-rooted anxiety that they could end up lost again. Zach nodded slowly, a flicker of hope igniting in his eyes. I do like that. I want to hear about the things I missed about you, about what became of everything after I was gone. Girlish laughter echoed from the back of the diner, jarring Sarah from her thoughts. She glanced toward the sound, then back at the hopeful trio that stood at their booth. Choices weighed heavy in the air. The next steps felt monumental, charged with an uncertainty that gnawed at her. As the diners around them resumed their conversations, Sarah felt like they were parted from the world. But what if we're too broken to rebuild? At that moment, the question floated between them, heavy with meaning, as Sarah's heart sank at the thought of their fractured pieces never quite fitting together again. The uncertainty filled the air, waiting to be conquered or succumbed to. The next chapter of their lives hinged on what came next. As they prepared to navigate the tangled past before them, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling everything was about to change, and the outcome was theirs to shape. What would they choose? The sun dipped low in the sky, casting an orange hue over the diner's entrance. Sarah felt as if time held its breath, waiting for them to decide. She stole a glance at Zach, whose face had softened under the weight of their stare. He looked vulnerable, a boy lost in the memory of who they once were, mixed with the man he had tried, unsuccessfully, to become. Margaret pulled her hands away, finally breaking the comforting connection. She leaned back, folding her arms across her chest. What does this new beginning look like for you, Zach? You can't just waltz back in and expect us to forgive and forget. Zach nodded, the determination in his eyes met with an invitation for a deeper conversation. I want to earn that trust back. I'll do whatever it takes. His voice was steady now, each word doused in sincerity. I want to hear about your lives, all the little moments I've missed. The laughter, the challenges, everything that makes you you. Sarah's heart tightened. Could they really turn those memories, marred by abandonment, into something new? Yet, the curiosity stirred inside her. Like, how do you plan to do that? Just showing up isn't enough. We need proof that this time you'll stay. Zach took a deep breath, and for a moment, It looked as if he would crumble under the weight of her skepticism. There's a youth sports charity that I've been involved with. I'm helping kids learn to play basketball. I thought, maybe I could bring you both along. We could volunteer together. Margaret lifted her brow. And you think that will fix everything? That playing a few games will wash away a decade of absence? I don't want to fix everything in one go, Zach replied, looking between them. I just want to be present. Maybe give you both a glimpse of who I've become. The offer hung in the air, shimmering with possibilities. Sarah could envision it, the three of them on a court, cheering for kids, laughing together, maybe even sharing stories that felt heavy yet liberating. But the specter of the past still loomed. Why now, Zach? Why do you care about us after all this time? The question came from deep within her, one she needed to hear answered. Because I finally understand what matters. After years of running away, I realized that being part of a family isn't just blood. It's about being there when it counts. I was lost, but I've been finding my way back. And I want you two with me. His eyes searched for hers, pleading for belief. Margaret seemed to soften, her walls cracking just slightly. One thing leads to another, Zach, and while I want to believe you, trust is earned, not given. Let us take this one step at a time. Sarah felt an odd mixture of hope and fear blossom inside her. As her mother and Zach began to articulate plans, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling she was walking on a tightrope. The ground beneath her could either hold a future filled with healing or collapse under the weight of their history. Moments passed as they unfolded their tentative plans, laughter and shared smiles starting to fill the cracks in their broken connection. Yet, the gnawing fear lingered in Sarah's chest. It was a question she kept wrestling with. What if they stumbled again? Could they withstand the next wave of heartbreak? Just as the conversation began to deepen, a siren wailed outside, breaking her concentration. It sent a shiver down her spine, but she shook it off, choosing to lean into this moment instead. All right, Sarah finally said, but we'll take it slow. I'm open to giving this a shot, but I need you both to understand that I'm scared. I want to be hurt again, not like last time. Zach nodded, the gravity of her words sinking in. He smiled faintly. We'll take that risk together then. As they wrapped up, planning their first day at the charity, Sarah couldn't help but feel a shift. Change was in the air, but was she ready to embrace it? The thought echoed in her mind as she glanced at her mother and Zach, feeling the weight of the unknown settle around them once more. Would they rise together, or would this new beginning collapse under the pressure of their past? As the last rays of daylight faded, a wave of anxiety washed over her. This was just the beginning, and the journey ahead was unpredictable. How far were they willing to go to reclaim what they had lost? The next morning dawned clear and bright, casting a fresh light over Maplewood, which seemed to stir with anticipation. Sarah woke with a swirl of emotions, excitement mingling with fear. Today was the beginning of their new path, the charity basketball event, where she hoped they would begin to bridge the gaps torn by years of silence and regret. She slipped into her favorite old sneakers, the ones that still had a hint of the summer grass and the carefree days of childhood. Today, they wouldn't just carry her, they would carry hope. Her mother was already in the kitchen, brewing coffee, her presence feeling different, softer somehow. Big day, she said, her voice gentler than usual. Yeah, Sarah replied, her heart fluttering. How are you feeling? I'm nervous, Margaret admitted, offering a weak smile. But I'm ready to at least try. Just one step at a time, right? Exactly, Sarah said, pulling her into a quick hug. They shared a moment that felt like a silent pact, a promise to face the day together. As they made their way to the community center, excitement buzzed in the air. Kids ran around, their laughter echoing like a melody. Parents gathered, some tentatively, but it felt different this time, like a budding connection that had begun to thaw the chill that once pervaded their small town. Zach was already there, bouncing a basketball, his laughter ringing out. Despite their rocky history, seeing him here smiling, active stirred something within Sarah. Maybe he had changed? Maybe they all had. Today felt significant. Hey, glad you could make it, Zach greeted them, flashing a wide smile that felt both familiar and foreign. Ready to get your game on? Margaret chuckled softly, the tension easing just a fraction. I did bring my old sneakers, she confessed, wiggling her toes as if testing the waters. As the day unfolded, laughter peppered the atmosphere. They started with basics, passing drills, warm-up games, and simple joys. Sarah and her mother watched as Zach engaged with kids, finding scattered moments of connection, sharing stories and laughter just as they had the night before. Margaret surprised Sarah too. She joined in on a few drills, her laughter ringing through the air like a song. The sight of her mother enjoying something so vibrant and full of life brought Sarah a comforting warmth. The walls built over the years felt less daunting. They were starting to dismantle together. Then came a moment that felt almost cinematic. The kids, excited from the practice, gathered around them. "Can we play a real game?" One little boy shouted, his eyes wide with eagerness. Sarah glanced at Zach, who nodded, ready to take charge. "Let us set up some teams." Margaret stood beside her daughter, joy reflecting in her eyes. "We should be on the same team," she said playfully, "to teach these kids how to really play." And just like that, the game began. Sarah felt the rush of adrenaline as they passed the ball, shouted encouragements, and ran up and down the court together. Their laughter was a dynamic force, connecting them like threads weaving through a tapestry. With each shot made, each cheer, foundations laid in the past started to solidify in exciting new ways. During a water break, Zach caught Sarah's eye, a silent, understanding passing between them. "Thank you for letting me be part of this," he said, sincerity evident in his voice. "I know I've got a long way to go, but it feels good to be moving in the right direction." "Just keep showing up," Sarah replied, feeling her heart soften. "That's all we need right now, presence." The afternoon wore on, filled with joy. As the final whistle blew on the makeshift game, kids were buzzing with excitement. But it was when one young girl approached them, eyes shining brightly, that everything crystallized for Sarah. "Will you come back next week?" she asked, her voice small yet hopeful. "Of course," Zach assured her, glancing at Margaret and Sarah for confirmation. "Yes," Margaret echoed, tears glistening in her eyes. "We'd love to come back." It was a moment of triumph, a promise made. Afterward, they took some time, piecing together how the day's connection had felt. Walking home together, an unspoken agreement hung in the air like a warm breeze. They were moving forward, slowly, together, healing amidst the laughter of children and the unshakable threads of community. As they passed the diner, the sun setting in the distance, bright lights flickered on, inviting them in like an embrace. Sarah grinned, thinking of the possibilities. This was the beginning of something new, something beautiful. It wasn't about forgetting the past. It was about shaping the future. "Ready to grab some fries?" she asked, turning to her mother. "Absolutely," Margaret replied, a twinkle in her eye that hadn't been there before. "Just don't forget to get me the double order," Zach joked, nudging Sarah as they stepped inside. Sarah smiled, her heart full. They would continue sharing stories and laugh loudly over cheesy fries and milkshakes. This was the moment that would redefine them, not just as a family, but as a community rising from the ashes of their past. The path wouldn't always be easy, but together, they could navigate whatever storm came next. Because sometimes, healing begins with a spark, and in Maplewood, they were born anew, ready to create a legacy that would last, one moment at a time. This was their story, and it was finally being told. Now that you're here, don't wait not even one more second. Hit that subscribe button immediately to be the first to catch more exclusive stories that touch your heart. Leave a like now to show your support and help us reach even more people. Drop a comment below telling us your reactions and feelings about this emotional ending. Your insights matter. And share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible transformation happen. You need to make sure your loved ones don't miss out on these heartfelt journeys. Let's spread the love and inspiration.